Hello and welcome to Good Game Well Played. I'm Hingers and this is S02E05 of the ABC's only show about the most important, least important thing. Today on the show, Blizzard have announced their new Hearthstone expansion, so we thought it'd be a good opportunity to chat about their new format changes. And also stay tuned to the end of the show for a big announcement. But first, let us hit up at the news. And we start with precocious teenager news, as Hearthstone crowns its youngest ever winner in an open major tournament. The Hearthstone Winter Americas Championships were held in Hollywood, California last weekend, where American pros vied for their share of $80,000 US prize money and also automatic qualification for the Hearthstone World Championships. 15-year-old Will Amnesiac Barton took on his compatriot Nostum in the final of the two-day event, after Nostum had already beaten Amnesiac 3-0 in the group stage. Amnesiac took the final 3-1 and will take home $25,000 US in prize money and can now chill out for 8 months before HWC in November. And anyone who watched Pocket early this week will have heard a similar version of that story that I already reported in their news when I was hosting. Covering our bases. Moving to legitimacy in esports news, France is on the cusp of writing actual laws to regulate high-level competitive gaming. Loi pour une république numérique, which is the Act for a Digital Republic, is undergoing revision before the French Senate right now and follows on from a letter the French Prime Minister Manuel Valls drafted in January outlining his hopes for creating a legal status for esports in France. I don't speak French, but I have it on very good authority that the letter deals with tools to combat match fixing and doping, as well as possible national federation for esports and specific rights and status for players, teams, sponsors, and tournament organizers. And finally, in the robots are taking over news, Google has announced that they could be setting their terrifying behemoth of a supercomputer on taking on StarCraft pros after DeepMind beat the world's best Go player. Founder Demis Hassabis said to Verge about what is next for the upsettingly smart ThinkBox. And then there are obviously all sorts of video games that humans play way better than computers. Like StarCraft is another big game in Korea as well. And at the Structure Data event in San Francisco last week, Google senior fellow Jeff Dean said, "StarCraft, I think, is our likely next target." Meanwhile, StarCraft legend Flash has said to SBS News Korea, "Honestly, I think I can win. The difference with Go is both sides play in a state where you don't know what's happening and you collect information. I think that point is a bit different." So I guess Skynet is still yet to go live. Take that, computers, you idiots. Alright, that is it for the news this week. Let us chat about Hearthstone. This week, the Boffins at Blizzard have announced the new expansion for everybody's favourite Azeroth-themed collectible card game, Hearthstone. Take that, World of Warcraft, the trading card game from 2005. I found your raid decks too chaotic. Anyway, this new expansion for Hearthstone is called Whispers of the Old Gods! As a bit of background, the Old Gods are a part of Warcraft lore that really rose to prominence in the Wrath of the Lich King WoW expansion. They're these sort of ancient Lovecraftian horrors, and a lot of their shtick has to do with sending people insane and causing madness by altering the reality you exist in. And this is all very exciting for the new expansion because it means we could be seeing some new and crazy gameplay mechanics. Like for example, in World of Warcraft, when you fought Yogg-Saron, a terrifying ball of mouths straight out of an upsetting anime film your older brother made you watch when you were 13 and frankly too young to see it, but you wanted him to think you were cool, so you just watched it because you wanted to hang out with him and his older friends that were cool guys. But then when you closed your eyes like that night and you tried to sleep, all you could see was just mouths, just like mouths everywhere, just gaping mouths everywhere every time you closed your eyes, and you couldn't sleep that night or the night after that or the night after that. And on the weekend you had to get up to like go to swim training, but you hadn't slept in like 3 days, and you tried to swim but you just felt ill and tired and you vomited in the pool, and then everyone called you like pool vom because they had to get out of the pool and they were like pool vom, pool vom. It was like 3 years of your life. Anyway, in WoW, when you fought Yogg-Saron, he like sucked you into his brain and the fight continued on in there and it was like crazy. What is that card gonna look like in Hearthstone? In this new set, we know you're gonna get to play with the Old Gods, these like super powerful ancient beings that can warp reality as we know it. And that sounds super exciting to me as a Warcraft nerd and as a Hearthstone player. But me getting hyped about a new expansion in this kind of way isn't a coincidence at all. Gaming companies need us to be excited about expansions, so we'll buy them. That is like a basic principle of business. And what incentivizes us to buy cards in a collectible card game? The promise of getting a better and more powerful deck to school scrubs on that ladder. So for example, with Hearthstone, when Goblins vs. Gnomes came out at the end of 2014, there was a sweet card in the set called Dr. Boom, based on a kind of an obscure NPC from the Burning Crusade. In Hearthstone, he was like this 7/7 that dropped like little 1/1 dudes that did random damage to your opponent and his or her minions. And then for like the next year, basically every competitive deck had a Dr. Boom in it. Except for like Freeze Mage, but like shut up Freeze Mage. Quit like Ice Lancing all my Frozen Void Cores and making me summon that Lord Jax I don't want to get out yet because I'm not going to get that battle cry. And I reckon I bought like 30 packs of GVG boosters trying to get a Dr. Boom because I was sucked into wanting to get a Dr. Boom because everybody else had a Dr. Boom. I don't think I even ever got one. I think I just ended up crafting one after I dusted like a gold Tyrion. But that's not the point. The point is Blizzard released a kind of an OP card and I bought like 30 packs of boosters trying to get it. And like, I don't mind like spending money on Hearthstone. You know, I don't need to pay off my Hex debt right now, mother. I'm just illustrating that as a business, Blizzard can make that sweet cash money by just releasing more and more powerful cards. The problem though is eventually that can kind of ruin the game. If each time you release a new set, you have a card like Dr. Boom in it and everyone feels like they have to play it in their deck, then at first you'll have like one of those cards, and then the next set you'll have like 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then eventually everyone has the same cards that combo with these as well, and decks begin to look very, very similar. But they have to make cards more powerful and cool, otherwise no one would play with them. That'd be like in football one year if like a boot company released a new boot that had like rockets on it or some shit, and then everyone was like, oh dude, we all need to get rocket boots. And like the next year, that same boot company was like, oh yeah, hey, remember how we made rocket boots last year? Well, this year, we're making like goalie gloves with lasers on them, right? So now the goalies have like, the lasers, and every time the ball goes to the goal, it's just lasering it down, you know? And then the next thing you know, the 2018 World Cup final is just like 22 dudes with like rocket boots and laser gloves manipulating the ball via telekinesis because they can do that now. And it's a very, very different game. I call it X-Ball, and it'll be a sweet sport that's going to unite telekinetic mutants across the globe, but it's also different to what we're talking about. There's a term for this phenomenon, right, of cards getting better and better in the CCG world. It's called power creep, and it also has huge implications for balance and gameplay. As cards become more and more powerful, games can become shorter and more tense as the back and forth is more volatile, and this can be at odds with original developer intent. So a lot of collectible card games like Magic the Gathering and now Hearthstone have introduced a standard format, which cycles cards out as they get older. When Blizzard announced this a month ago, that players competing in the new standard format would have to use cards from this or the previous calendar year, some casual players were annoyed about this because they felt that their crafted decks were being pushed to the side. And it should be said that Blizzard is running a separate, ranked wild format where players can still play with all current and former Hearthstone cards. But the main competitive scene will focus on standard. So some people were like, hey Blizzard, I dusted a gold Tyrion Fordring to get this Dr. Boom and now I can't even play it in my main deck. Like, what are you doing? This is a main competitive format that I want to play. This bullshit is what it is. Some people, I don't know who those people are or would be, but I can understand those people who aren't me. For real though, right? I spent 2 years grinding out my sweet Demon Handlock deck and now I can't play a bunch of those cards in standard format. It's frustrating. But as a fan of watching high-level competitive Hearthstone and the esports scene, this is great news. It means we are guaranteed to see new decks every expansion, by design, as well as new playstyles as the metagame shifts. It also means the pros will be forced to play with new cards, so we'll be able to absorb all that sweet wisdom on how to play with and against, for example, Cthulhu, the terrifying eye beast that he is. And to be honest, from an esports perspective, Blizzard needed to do something like this to keep me as a spectator interested. The game needs to evolve and change, and you see this reflected by the pros who are all largely enthusiastic about this format split.
My personal opinion on this is that it's extremely important that they're making these changes. I'm really happy about it.
I think that this is generally the correct direction.
What they're doing, it needed to be done at some point.
It's a really good thing, actually. It's just something that's needed to happen for a long time. It's going to make it easier for newer players to get into the game.
So they're doing something great.
My thoughts on it, I generally like the set rotation idea a lot and agree with the changes that have to be made for the game in order to prosper in the long term.
This whole thing just gets me really excited to play ranked mode once again, because every single expansion that will come about will have such a huge impact on ranked play, and things will change much more suddenly.
And look, maybe they're all on that sweet Blizzard cash money payroll, right? And they have to say that, or Ben Brode will make a card in Wotalk called like Kibler's a dick or something. I don't know. I think we have a really exciting year to look forward to in terms of competitive Hearthstone, as cards cycle in and out and we're all forced into the Lovecraftian nightmare that awaits. sometimes you just gotta take one for the team. And yeah, look, I won't be able to run that sweet, sane demon handlock deck I've been playing, and it means I'll have to remake a whole new deck. But for the sake of esports, the trade-off is worth it. All right, that is it for today's show. Let us know in the comments what you think of Hearthstone's most recent changes. And it is that time of the year where I will be taking off a month to go do my little stand-up comedy jokes at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. So, taking over Well Played for the next month, it is someone you know and love. It's Radley.
Hi guys.
Hey Rad, what are you?
Hi.
Oh goodness.
Hi. It is mine now.